How are you?
Great, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm with a special person, a fantastic musician, artist, record producer, Broadway orchestrator, conductor. The list goes on and on. So Stephen, without further ado, I'm going to start with just talking about your incredible career. Mm-hmm. You're a star. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, sure. My pleasure.
Berklee. And with Berklee Abu Dhabi opening as a center, this is really special for a lot of students. I think your story is very inspirational. So you've been a star. What was the point of realization that you were going to be a musical director on a Broadway theater, productions on Broadway?
It was a really weird transition after Berklee, because I was at Berklee from 1989 to 1992. I went through the summers to finish up early because I was excited to get my life started, and I was a film scoring major. Which I loved. And at the time, Berklee offers a hugely wide range and diverse selection of majors and make your own majors and all that stuff now. But back then, there were not a lot of options. There was music production and engineering, there was performance, there was film scoring, and there was some, jazz arranging and things like that. So film scoring really, really excited me. And just getting to write my own stuff and arrange my own stuff and conduct my own stuff, and learning about music editing and, and conducting to the screen and all the old school ways that they used to do the movies, before everything was clicked and synced up with computers and all that stuff was just, it was just wildly creative. But I'll go back to the Berklee experience later. So when I came out of school, I had some friends that had done, that were working in the theater, and a friend of mine who was working in the dinner theater, and she was, I was just working in a video store, if you remember what those are. Well, maybe many people probably don't, but I was working at
Hurricanes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was working in a video store, and she called me up and said, listen, they need a pianist to play the show. And I had always played shows, in my high school, and, I played for musicals, and I grew up, very close to New York City, and, less than 20 miles away. And my family, every year we would go in and see several shows on Broadway. And so it was a big part of my musical heritage, was having that, that the love of that. And I used to play for voice lessons in my hometown, and I always played for a lot of Broadway people. So, so it was never like, I'm going to do that one day. It was just kind of like, I landed back there after college, playing for a production of Meet Me in St. Louis, of all things, in this little dinner theater. And I just, the live performance aspect was so exciting to me. And because anything can happen, right? I mean, something could go wrong, and you have to find the time to keep, vamping or change something up. And it was just so fun, and conducting a cast as well as an orchestra. And it was only a couple musicians for that one. So I just kept doing it. And I kept getting work, doing that sort of thing. And I loved it so much. And this is all prior to getting the opportunity to do any arranging or orchestrating or anything like that, which is what I ended up doing more for Broadway shows. So I just started, and I just got out there and just kept doing it, and just kept, taking the job. One thing led to another, and people liked working with me, and I just kept going. And I just kind of found my niche. And it wasn't until a production, this production of this musical, it was an original musical off Broadway called The Wild Party, by an amazing composer named Andrew Lippa. That was my big break. in New York City. And it was the first time that I had done an original musical from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment where I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like,
yeah,
this is,
sorry to interrupt you, but prior to you going to Berklee and, getting all these tools, what were you doing to prepare to get there? Like, were you playing in church? Were you playing?
Yeah, I was. Well, yeah, what I was doing. I mentioned it briefly. There was a voice teacher in my hometown that a friend of mine that lived on my block that I grew up with used to go to her, and I used to play the piano for her for fun. She and I used to sit at the piano and like break open the vocal selections from the Broadway shows, and she'd sing songs and I would play, and I really loved it. And she started taking me to her voice lessons, and the teacher did not play the piano, and she always had an accompanist. So she took me on as, I started playing for a couple of lessons here and there. And I would show up after school and work into the evening and do my homework while she was warming them up. And I would play for everyone from like opera students to, older women and men, to like, young kids that were learning how to sing and learning, so I was exposed to a wide range of music very quickly, from Broadway to classical to opera. And I had to sight read on the spot. So there was a lot of, so I very quickly honed those skills as a sight reader and as an accompanist, because that really it's a huge skill, to like be able to follow a singer and be able to really do that. And and from the time I was about 12 years old until I graduated high school, I worked for this teacher. And by the time I was about 13 or 14, I became her principal accompanist. And that was my main part-time job when I wasn't working,
Seems
retail.
like what Barry Manilow did. He was great at accompanying people early in his career. But you went to Berklee and you were a film scoring major. Now, doing film scoring, your transition from film scoring to the real world, where you are now arranging so much, which actually, most people wouldn't think about it, but seems like you already had that performance thing going on. You had arranging happening through film scoring, working on a lot of keyboards and other software. So you've got this technology thing going on. Talk about that and how you were able to take all those skills and create your own kind of toolkit that really helped you in the real world, because you probably are very quick at putting stuff down.
Yeah, I mean, or very quick at putting a team together that knows how to put stuff down. You know what I mean? Like, I actually, I still feel like I have so much to learn about so many of the technologies, and I still feel like a toddler working around some of these programs and everything, compared to some of the younger people that have like grown up with it. Think about it. When I was in college, like, we were just starting to like, when I was at Berklee, they had just started using Performer and Studio Vision. Like, Studio Vision was, Vision was the program, and I remember right before I left school, and on the little Macs, the little black and white Macs with the little floppy disk drive, and they used to like, I remember like the big news was you can record a vocal onto the hard drive, and it was like mind blowing. And now like we live in a cloud and everything's possible, and there's no sense of, so it's really interesting because when it comes to moving into theater, like, theater started to theater always was on top of the newest technology as far as synthesizers and programming and all that stuff, and it really evolved very rapidly over the last 20 to 25 years, right? Going from like the keyboards, like this little analog dream, going from these keyboards that had all the stuff to like the software based machines, and now utilizing Ableton and Logic and QLab and all these things that kind of keep stacking the technologies on top of each other. So I think the main things that I think we all use as we develop shows, a lot of writers are just writing in Logic, and they're just sending, they're sending Logic files, and we're transcribing things off of Logic, and a lot of our orchestrations are we demo them in Logic with plugins, and just kind of find a musical world that we want to play in, and then we make it real,
But you've been known to be this guy who's like a hit maker. You have hit options. Talk about your work on Wicked, Book of Mormon, where you got your first, Tony and Grammy, and then Kiki Boots, your second Tony and Grammy, and then Frozen, and all the crazy stuff that you've done. You also worked with Lady Gaga. I'm like, I can go on and on and on and on, and the Academy Awards as well as Grammy, Academy Awards. You're actually making tracks, just not doing the musical, but making the music be really recognized by a huge mass of people, from young children to older adults, and people love this stuff. I mean, you've got like that David Foster kind of touch or something.
I don't know about that. Well, you listen, it's, like I said, as my career began, it really was about finding, you find your tribe in any facet of the business. And I found collaborators that were really awesome and exciting, and that wanted to work with me again because they liked what I did. And then I got the opportunity to do more exciting work. So, for instance, like, you can trace all of the stuff back to like I was saying, that show that I did, that Wild Party, that first original musical that I did off Broadway, this little thing that I was a music director for. I didn't even do a lot of arranging. I did a lot of like tinkering and fixing. Stephen Schwartz came to see that. He's a composer of everything. Of Wicked and many other things. And and he asked me to, he's like, I'm writing this new musical. Would you like to start developing it with me? These things, they take years. Like, each of the things you mentioned took 3 to 5 years before it even saw an audience. You know what I mean? These are it's a huge investment of time and creativity that people don't even realize. Like, when you pay for a ticket and you sit in the audience and go like, oh, this is amazing. Like, it took years of blood, sweat, and tears for people to get to that point of you sitting there in that seat. So it was really, for me, what's exciting is that all of them were so varied musically. You know what I mean? Like my first year on Broadway was Avenue Q and Wicked, and I did both of them. I orchestrated and arranged Avenue Q, but I didn't conduct it because I was conducting Wicked. But
you need to be live.
Yeah, but I had done all of this musical arrangement on Wicked with fellow Berklee alum Alex Lacamoire, who from Hamilton and all of those amazing. Alex was my associate, and he and I did got to do all this great musical work on that, and then after that, like, the composer and the producers of Avenue Q asked me to do something else, and the composer of Avenue Q asked me to do something else, and he's like, hey, I'm writing this little musical with the guys from South Park. You want to come develop it with me? And I said, sure. And and then we all sat in the room and started doing all, and it took years and years and years of building them like piece by piece, starting with like a bunch of actors and me at a piano and a bunch of actors. Like, I always tell people, Wicked was like, it's this huge worldwide phenomenon, right? Everybody knows it. And it started with literally 10 actors and me at a piano, and that was it. like for several readings, you know, I mean, for a couple of years, it was like that until you keep adding layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of all of the other things
together, yeah.
You know, and so that's the part that I love, right? Like, and you know, it's like that's the stuff that like that's the creative part for me, and that's the stuff that takes me all the way back to Berklee, of all the stuff that I got to do, even in the film scoring department, and like getting to, you know, arrange my stuff and getting to conduct my stuff and getting to like, you know, piece it all together and for a finished product. And that's what we get to do. As, you know, when I work closely with composers, and sometimes, you know, do a little of the writing myself, or like, you know, it's like any arranger is really a writer themselves, right? They're writing on top of writing. So, you know, whether I'm arranging it or I'm arranging and orchestrating, it's always that sort of thing, so that I can, you know, I'm always a little bit more creatively involved, so that I can, you know, I just find it so exciting and so challenging. It's like a giant puzzle to put together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Talk about, you know, leadership, networking, attitude. Leave your ego at the door. You know, when you're working with so many people and they might like say, Stephen, I don't like that chord you played there. I mean, maybe it's written, but it doesn't work for me. You know, finding the right key for them, because that's all your job. You want them to sound amazing. So talk about those different elements that make you get the gig because of all those things in your toolkit.
The truth is, you know, what I always tell people, you know, in any aspect of making music, or, you know, it's about collaboration, right? I mean, it's about working with people and bringing out the best in people, and also, you know, and being challenged to do your best work. I'm not saying there haven't been really intense, you know, kind of, you know, conflicts within that. And sometimes you need those conflicts to get to the most incredible results. Right. Yep. But it really is, you know, it is the sort of thing where, I don't know, like, you know, when I'm stepping into a room full, like on a first day of a rehearsal of a big Broadway show or whatever, and it's me, and, you know, maybe an associate at a piano, and like a giant cast of people, and like we're ready to make some music, and I'm teaching an arrangement that I wrote, a vocal arrangement, and something, you know, like there's nothing more exciting and more thrilling to me. And you know, and it's about getting the people that are performing it to love it as much as I love it, right? It's about getting that joy and that excitement of making that music happen, that's going to translate eventually to the storytelling of how we tell this, you know, whatever story we're telling, you know, in the theater, and however we make that come to life for an audience. And that is the part that really is magical and exciting for me. You know,
you have this kind of pop mindset to some degree, because it seems like, you know, your work with Lady Gaga. Talk about that, because that's a whole nother bag. You know, doing The Wiz and Rent. So talk about that, and then, you know, it's unbelievable how you know, tread these little different things, but come together as a, you know, unit in the end.
Yeah, I had the great opportunity to music direct the Academy Awards one year, like the full show, and I had, you know, my friend Neil Patrick Harris was hosting. I've known him for over 20 years, and you know, from the Broadway world, and my friends Bobby and Kristen Lopez, the writers of Frozen, and they were writing the opening number, and so I got to, you know, and I got to work with the producers, Neil Marin, and Craig Zaden, the late Craig Zaden, who was an amazing man. And they were just incredible. It was their last year producing the Oscars. And they had this idea to do this tribute to The Sound of Music, you know, this big, you know, this big tribute. And they said, you know, we're going to get Lady Gaga to do it. And she's, you know, she's really into it. And I was like, okay. So, so then the next minute, like she's showing up at my house and we're rehearsing this medley and I'm doing this, and we, and she was an extraordinary collaborator in that she wanted to be so true to the music as it existed. She wanted to sing it in Julie Andrews keys. She wanted it to be a really traditional medley. She's like, I don't want to mash up. I don't want any of this modern, craziness. So she wanted to go like super old school. Right. And that was, and so that was like my in with the big pop star was like, let's go, let's throw it back to like being like super, super old school. And it was incredible. And it was so thrilling. And it was such an incredible thrill to be a part of doing that live for like, a billion people. And she killed it. She was just extraordinary. So, and I got to, arrange it and orchestrate it with my friend Chris Yonke, who's a brilliant orchestrator. He and I, put that chart together. And it was really, that was the beginning. And then every time she needed, like, so, a little something, she would call me and she's like, hey, I wrote this song with Diane Warren for this movie. Could you do some strings on it? And I was like, okay. So, she would send me a demo and then I would demo my strings and send it to her for feedback. And then she would be like, great, let's do it. And then we would go into a studio and record it with real strings. And the same thing happened for, I did the song, the final song in A Star Is Born.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She, and I arranged that for her as well. And that was like, that was just like, and I had no idea it was going to be like the big emotional finale of the film. You know what I mean? And the fact that they, like, what was mind blowing was like they literally called me like we were not far, like I hadn't even gotten an approved demo back, like I hadn't even gotten approval on a demo, and they called me and they're like, yeah, so we're gonna need something to shoot to because we're shooting it tomorrow, and then we need music because we're going to have them playing it live. And I was like, what, and I had to like, and it was like being back at school. Like I had to like literally like pull an all-nighter and like do all this stuff. And eventually I got to fly to Los Angeles and conduct like this beautiful large string section for it and do it for real. But it was really incredible. And what was even more incredible is at the time that we did it, like, that I had originally started arranging it for her, like she hadn't even finished the song. Like she was just kind of like, she hadn't even finished the lyrics for the bridge, and she was just kind of like singing around it. And I had to, so I really got to like work with her at the ground up from the very beginning, kind of fleshing out what the song was going to be. And it was really exciting. That's awesome. So, yeah, it was pretty extraordinary.
So tell me the difference of working with Cyndi Lauper. Now you did Lady Gaga, Cyndi Lauper. How was that experience? Because that was really intimate, right?
Oh yeah, Cyndi. Well, Cyndi, we wrote a whole musical together. I helped put this whole musical together. It was crazy. So she was the first concert that I ever saw in 1984. I was 13 years old. The Fun Tour 84.
Was that a prime then? We had the world was around.
But her first album, She's So Unusual. Yeah, it was like in 1984, and she, so she was writing a musical with Jerry Mitchell was directing it, and Harvey Fierstein was writing the book, and and they needed, she needed someone to be by her side to like kind of help flesh it all out and make it all happen. And she worked with several songwriting collaborators, and then she's just extraordinary. I mean, she's like my crazy Italian aunt from Queens, you know what I mean? And I love her so much. Like I still I text her like once a week, and like we have these hilarious conversations. She turned out to be like an extraordinary arranger. Like that's the thing that like people don't know about her. And like her and she has a weird encyclopedic knowledge of music too. Like she hit me up with like a song in the middle, in Kinky Boots. She said, I want this song to sound like a tango. And I said, okay. And this one song, she's like, but I want to keep it modern. So keep keep the 808 and like keep the the electronic drums and stuff. She's like, but I want it to sound like a tango. So like when you do the strings and all the rest of the orchestra around it, I want you to make it sounds like a tango. I said, okay. And the next day she walked into rehearsal and she had like a box set of CDs and she threw it on the piano. And I said, what's this? She goes, Piazzolla. And I was like, she goes, you know who Piazzolla is? I was like, yeah, the father of modern tango. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. She's like, make it sound like that.
No.
Like, okay.
Wait, wow. That's awesome. I mean, that's a challenge for you, which you probably said, okay, I already got this. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I knew, yeah, of course, but yeah, it was awesome. But I was just like, oh, like, so you really want to go there? So like, let's go there. So like, all of the guitar and string writing that I did on that particular song was like very, very classic tango. On top of the very modern pop programming and drums and keyboards that we use. So it was cool.
What are some of the traits that you work with Stephen Schwartz, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Robin Lopez, Cindy Lauper, Lady Gaga, on and on and on.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, some of these people that make them inspirational leaders, in your opinion.
I think that like I said, all of the people that you mentioned are people that have really distinct vision, and they're also really, really great collaborators. You know what I mean? Like, again, not saying that they don't have opinions or have strong opinions about things, but these are people that, as writers and as creators, they have just such a distinct. They have such distinct voices, and they're also incredibly passionate, but they're also incredibly fun. I mean, they're all fun people too, which is crazy. Like, we had so much fun, especially on Book of Mormon. Oh my God, we were just laughing the entire time. I mean, it's just insane. That was insane. But at a certain point, you have to say, like, theater is such a hugely collaborative art form, and it's not just, unlike television, where television or film, where like once it's done and it lives and it's on tape and you have it forever. Like, these are shows that it's like I showed up and conducted Wicked and Book of Mormon, every day, and Frozen, it's like I went all over the world and put up Wicked and Book of Mormon and Kinky Boots and put it up in a million, in like 5-6 different languages. And it's crazy. And at that point, what it is it really is about continuing to translate the initial experience of that magical connection of that live experience around the world and all of the different venues and the different languages. So it was really exciting. So I think that to answer your question in the roundabout way, that the people that all these incredible artists that you mentioned are, they have very, very distinct, strong visions and wild talents. That, and they're also really, really great at collaboration. It's like, I mean, not that if one of them was a diva, I would be able to tell you that right now, but they really aren't. They really aren't. Like, all of those people are like super cool people. And the truth is, what I always tell people, like people that want to do what I do, like, in the theater or for film and TV and whatnot, it's like, as far as like networking and all that stuff, it's like, it's like you got, the whole job is to get your work seen, right? I mean, it's like to get the right people to notice and to recognize your work and want to hear more of it, or see more of it.
Transition into it's a great segue, because I was going to ask you about, a lot of young people want to know, they may play great, they may write great, they may orchestrate well, but how do you, especially in your early years, how much do you know about the business part of, negotiation?
Nothing.
Getting a manager who's not going to rip you off, somebody who wants 20% rather than 10%, and like, okay, do I go with this person versus somebody else, or wait a little while? What do you do?
It was, it's, you go, you go to the people that you look up to the most, and the people that I had composer and music director friends that were represented by a specific lawyer that I went to initially, over 20 years ago to like do a very basic deal that I needed. And he stayed with me for all these years, like, and has been like the person to help me handle all of the, because it gets more complicated, obviously, as it, the larger, just everything. I mean, it's just, it really, at a certain point, it's really about protecting your work as an artist. You know what I mean? And just making sure that you're getting paid what you're worth for the work that you do. And certainly for ongoing, ongoing things, it's really important. So, the business side of it all just kind of, that all happened once I made sure that I was, surrounding myself with people that, that were trusted by other people that I admired in the business. You know what I mean? But as far as, networking and whatnot, it's like I said, like the thing that the thing I'm proudest of in whatever career I've had so far is that my work got me more work. I never had an agent getting me my work. I got calls based on, oh, that's the guy that did this, so let's see if he'll do this. And then those people, liked what I did, so they recommended me to someone else, or someone else wanted to do something. And that's kind of the best part of it, right? Is that like that's the thing I'm quite proud of, because I feel like, the work did it for me. And, and the fact that people actually wanted to be in a room with me,
How do you keep yourself, you seem like a totally excited person, especially when it's a good project, or, how you can add value to it. How do you keep yourself abreast with, the changes from technology to opportunities to use virtual reality or whatever it may be, especially in some of the work that you're doing? Do you watch a lot of shows? Do you listen a lot to a lot of new music? Are you using a lot of, or you are surrounded by some great people who who to call for some of the tech stuff you might need? What is your secret to doing that?
Oh, I mean, I think that anyone who does, any kind of, the kind of work that I do, like in the theater and, and also for film and TV and whatnot, has to be a really well-rounded, person. And so, I mean, it's important to know, for me, like, I do like to stay on top of, the more popular music that's happening and what's exciting people. It's important to kind of expand my my own skills working with different composers that do very, very wildly different stuff. I mean, and I've been lucky to work with a lot of pop writers, and I'm actually writing a piece with Jake Shears from the Scissor Sisters.
Wow.
He and I I worked with him about 10 years ago on his musical Tales of the City that got developed and eventually put up in San Francisco. And he and I are writing a musical together, and that's been like an amazing collaboration, because it's like writing with anyone, as anyone watching this well knows, is like, it's like you start to learn, you get to step outside your comfort zone like every second, because you get to kind of like, it's that give and take of figuring out like what what is, what excites the other person that's writing, and kind of, and structurally, and all of these things. And that's been really, really cool. And yeah. And as far as the technology and everything, it's like, look, it's expanding so fast, I can't, I couldn't possibly, keep up, but, but like, I'm constantly expanding like the plugins that I have, and just trying to like, enable, it's like, the more we can do at home, the more people expect to come out of your home studio as far as demos. And, it's like, no one wants to hear like the shitty demos that, you used to turn on a tape recorder and just play at a piano and be like, that's a song, like no one wants to hear that anymore. Now they want to hear fully realized everything, because we have that
yeah,
yeah. So it really is about like, I mean, sure. Like, I'm going to call people that, I'm going to make sure that my stuff is good. So like, if I certainly have a group of people that I would call and be like, can you like help me out with this programming, or can you help me out with this mix and whatever, so yeah. So, I mean, again, it's like, it's a collaboration always.
What are some of your tips for young people who might be thinking about, Berklee or music in their career? What would be some of the tips you'd give them today to be relevant and add value?
You mean just in general?
Yeah,
like,
just, if you were a young person trying to follow your heart and passion and want to do music as a career, it might be theater work, it might be film scoring, it might be music production, engineering, or performance. What would you say to them today? I
mean,
I know it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to say because it's so individual, but I feel like, it sounds cheesy to say, follow your gut, follow your heart. But I mean, the truth is, I can only speak for myself in that I landed somewhere that fed my soul. You know what I mean? Like I landed in a place of creativity and excitement, as an arranger and as a writer and as a producer, where I got to work with people that challenged me and delighted me and made me better with every, it's like, I'm still learning. And so I feel like that's the best way to be. It's like, it's like however you can get, continue to get pushed outside of your comfort zone, doing what you love and having like so many options. I mean, Berklee, I always say, and this is like kind of my standard thing whenever people ask me about my time at Berklee, is like, even when I was there, like, because I was a film scoring major, don't forget, I had to take all of the classical stuff, but then also all of the modern pop and harmony stuff and the jazz ear training and all that stuff. Like, so I came out of Berklee, like having studied, Beethoven's string quartets and Bach and like all of this, all this other stuff, but then also was like taking class on, the music of John Lennon, and I was like scatting and solfege, you know what I mean? Like it was just some crazy, it was a crazy eclectic, set of tools that I walked out of Berklee with that I didn't even realize I would need later. And I think that, the thing that's awesome about Berklee, and how it's continued to grow. And I went back a couple of years ago and I was blown away. But around the world, I mean, like what it's offering is just so extraordinary to me because it's, every person that I knew coming out of a conservatory at the same time that I came out of Berklee had such a narrow perspective musically. And I mean, granted, it was a very focused perspective, but it was very narrow. Like, and they had a lot to learn in other areas. And I felt that I had a big leg up in a lot of ways because I was exposed to so many wildly different styles of music and so many wildly different, technologies and and ways to go about creating. So I mean, you know, it really is an extraordinary place, and the fact that it's gone so global, you know, I mean, Abu Dhabi and Spain, and I mean, it's just
you can come to Abu Dhabi and
oh my God, I've never
we got to make it happen.
You tell me, but yeah, so it really is about just about finding, you know, you do have to find your focus. You do have to find what excites you, and it could be like 5 different things that excite you about making music, but it's about finding the people that make that music with you, that make you continue to grow as an artist and continue to, you know, develop all of that. And that's what I think is really exciting. That's what I got to find.
It's awesome. In fact, we're at the fag end with just 10 rapid fire questions that I'm going to ask you that you probably don't know about anyway. So it's
no
go. And you just pick one. So Rent or Wicked?
Come on.
You like? That's why I had to make it difficult. I know you love both, so go for it.
I love every show I've worked on. However, I would say Wicked because I got to be more part of creating it. So I got to be more creative working on it originally.
Burgers or pasta?
Pasta.
Coffee or Coke?
Coffee.
This one's a good one. Yamaha, Roland, Korg, or Juno?
Oh, gosh. Oh, so we're talking synthesizers, not pianos. Okay. Tell me again.
Yamaha, Roland, Korg, or Juno?
I would say Roland.
Well, I see that Juno keyboard behind you. Tell me about it.
It was my first keyboard that I bought when I was 13 years old.
Wow.
I saved up for it, and it's still kicking. And I even have the little DCB to MIDI, you know, kind of thing going on.
So Ableton or Logic?
Logic.
Collaborating or working solo?
Collaborating.
Film scoring, working with a pop vocalist?
That's tricky. I would say pop vocalist.
Do you prefer being an independent contractor or working for an annual salary?
Well, I don't know. I've never worked for an annual salary.
Okay. Scoring for films, video games, or Broadway?
One more time.
Scoring for films, video games, or Broadway?
Broadway all the way.
The last one is, do you prefer writing for ballads or dance tunes?
You know, it used to be ballads, but I'm going to say dance tunes now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow, Stephen, this has been incredible. I learned so much. Just following your career, your generosity. Thank you for doing this on short notice.
Oh my gosh! Thank you for asking me. I mean,
and I think we
such a pleasure.
Need to do this in person in Abu Dhabi or Spain or somewhere, because let all this craziness get away from us. And
yes.
And wishing you all the best with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
We are so proud, and thank you. Thank you for the music. Keep the music playing. And
thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for everything.
Thanks so much.
It's great talking to you.
Take care, buddy. Be well.